Well, we have two storm systems heading into for the eastern U.S. One coming up tomorrow. You see it circled there on the satellite picture. And the second one will be coming up on Sunday. We've got severe weather tonight in parts of the South, as well as in Florida, which is part of the South. And we'll take a look at the blocky long range, all of that and more on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show, brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, and Southwest Suffolk County on Long Island. And they've got mulch, topsoil, sand, and anything else you need, whether you are a professional landscaper and you can bring down the truck, or you're a do-it-yourselfer and you can bring down the truck to pick up whatever you need. 631-756-1125. You cannot find better prices anywhere in these inflationary times. And the website is
OmniTrueValue.com.
And also brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Easy to install. Even I was able to do it with ease. And join the fastest growing observing network, of which I am a part of, on the planet. The link is on the chat board pinned to the top. It's also on the descriptor to this video. If you use the coupon code Joe and Joe Weather Show, what do you get, Joe?
You get 10, count them, 10% off.
Which isn't too shabby. Oh, look, there's two of me. Oh, I forgot to get rid of myself. Hang on. And we'll get rid of me. We'll move you there. And we get me down here. All right.
There you go.
Yes. So I had a gloom and doom day, Joe. On my Tempest weather flow, measured 1.74 inches of rain, and it finally stopped raining about an hour and a half ago. Oh my, it rained almost all day yesterday, and it rained virtually all day today. I had to turn the fireplace on to get some heat because I have my heating system turned off, and it was just miserable. I was stuck in the house all day.
You know, I was surprised at how much rain fell, especially overnight. Renata said it actually woke her up. I'm figuring last night we were going to get some light showers and sprinkles. We picked up about 1/4 inch of rain last night. Went out this morning to walk the dog. Had to walk between the raindrops. I didn't anticipate such a potent amount of rainfall. And speaking of rain, get ready for what's coming our way for this weekend, because we're going to get, I think, quite a bit of that.
I would think between the two weather systems coming up, I mean, I put down, I had about an inch yesterday and another 1.75 inches today. So that's close to 3 inches. So I would think with what I was looking at guidance wise, you're going to get, at least 1.5 to 2.5 inches out of this.
I think for Saturday, actually for tomorrow night, I'm thinking that rain is going to start moving in probably sometime between 8 or 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock tomorrow night. The heaviest probably right around daybreak on Saturday. And then Saturday, the rains will, peter out a bit by the midday and afternoon. And then, as you pointed out, Joe, there will be a second shot of precipitation, and that probably will be hitting us later Sunday into Sunday night, and maybe even into the very early part of Monday as well. And yeah, between the two, at least I think at least 3/4 to an inch for tomorrow night and Saturday, and maybe another similar amount for Sunday into Monday. So I'm looking for at least a couple of inches before this weekend is up.
Well, and in between those two systems, it's going to be gloom and doom.
Well, I don't know if you'd say gloom and doom. I would say gloom and doom. I think the best way to describe Saturday's weather is just indifferent. We're going to have cloud-filled skies, some occasional rain, gusty winds. I think winds will be gusting to over 30 miles an hour, especially along coastal areas on Saturday. But the big thing about Saturday, the temperatures, in the Hudson Valley, the normal high at this time of the year should be 66. And on Saturday, I could see many spots, maybe not many, but not a few places hardly making it out of the 40s. It's going to be a downright nasty looking day on Saturday.
Well, that's not indifferent. That's gloom and doom.
That's gloom and doom. All
Yeah.
right, I'll go with you.
Yeah, when
Yes.
I say gloom and doom, I usually mean one of those days in the spring where it's cloudy all day, low clouds, not even any, no brightening. You get, you might get some rain, you might not. You might get some drizzle, you might not. And then you just sort of put them together over a bunch of. Having one of those days is okay if you know it's going to clear out the next day. But when you're going to string 2 or 3 of those in a row, to me, that's sort of how I define gloom and doom.
And doom.
Yes. All right. Welcome to everybody tonight on the chat board to the Joe and Joe Weather Show. And for those of you who are watching in the background, doing the dishes, watching, maybe you got the TV on at the same time while you're watching us on your mobile device, or maybe you're watching us on your big screen television, because after all, we're big everywhere. Just remember that the Joe and Joe Weather Show is on Monday through Thursdays at 7:35 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We will be off on Friday and Saturday because Joe and I need to at least recharge. But fear not, if there was a big storm, we would make the sacrifice and have our show. In the meantime, tonight, we'll get things going. David Fuller got going by banging the tip jar already. Thank you, David, for hitting Super Chat. And he says, good evening, Joes. Looking forward to seeing hot, humid beach weather soon as this cool trend ends. Well, David, you're going to have to wait for a bit, okay? It's not coming anytime soon. Watches and warnings. Not a whole lot. We've got 2 working severe thunderstorm watches, one along the east coast of Florida, particularly, not the southeast, but the rest of the east coast of Florida and even into southern Georgia. We have another severe thunderstorm watch in northwestern Alabama, across northern Mississippi into eastern Arkansas. Flood watches are up in Nevada and the Sierra Nevadas in California because of melting snows and some rain, and also flood watches up in parts of eastern Idaho, northeastern Minnesota, and northwestern Wisconsin. A few patchy areas in the tan color. I guess you want to call that tan or beige. It's actually beige. That's the color of my wall in my great room. Wind advisories that we see up in parts of South Dakota and even a few counties in North Dakota, and then also scattered around through parts of the Southwest. A lot of spots had a tough time. I thought it would at least improve today substantially, but it took a good part of the afternoon to get the low clouds out of the way. And now we've got some high clouds streaming up from all that moisture that you see on the satellite across the southeast and into Florida and back through the Tennessee Valley into this rotation that is moving now through Arkansas. It won't be long. If we partially clear out in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, Joe, it's going to start to cloud up before too long with that moisture from the south coming up.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was, one of the things I was expecting today was, all right, clouds, maybe a leftover shower in the morning, and by the afternoon the sun will be back out and it'll be nice. It never really came out. Well, let me correct that. It did finally come out about mid to late afternoon, far later than what I had anticipated. Those clouds really hung in for a good part of the day, much of the morning into the early afternoon. I stepped outside around 11 o'clock to take the dog out and yelled back to the house to Renata. I said, it's drizzling. When I got back, I said, now it's no longer drizzling. It's raining lightly. I didn't expect that, but that's the way today went.
It was that kind of a day. And I guess it didn't help matters because the surface winds have started to turn around and come in from off the ocean. The low clouds on the satellite loop, which is only going back a couple of hours, are gone. But now you see those the high clouds that are starting to stream in from the west and from the southwest, and it also shows up as a very busy radar in the southeast right now. Now I'm out of the rain finally, as you can see. So I'm for those of you who are curious, if you where North Carolina and Tennessee meet, I'm probably about maybe 25 miles to the southeast of that on a 2,200 foot side of a mountain. But there's quite a bit of rain that's moved up into eastern Kentucky, western Virginia, and then it gets heavy in South Carolina, in western South Carolina, into southern Georgia, and we've got some thunderstorms in the mix there too. We've got 3 severe thunderstorm warnings up, one in South Georgia, the other 2 on the Florida side. Some special marine warnings along the Florida coast. It looks like there's even a tornado warning right on the coast there. Why don't we check that out? Shall we check that out, Mr. Rayo?
Why don't we?
Well, let's do that.
Yes.
Hold on one second. So let's go to Tornado HQ. TornadoHQ.com. Good tool to use if you want to follow along with the severe weather. And let's see what it tells us. And get a little tighter there, and you can see all the little boxes. The purple boxes are special marine warnings. The yellows or the brownish yellows are severe thunderstorm warnings, and the tiny little red box that you see is a tornado warning. And that is a severe thunderstorm. This is in Brevard County in Florida. A severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge, or near Playa Linda. I've never heard of this one. Playa Linda Beach. Playallinda. Playa Linda.
Okay. I guess if you can,
I won't go down that road. Let's just leave it there.
We didn't make these places up, folks.
They are what they are.
Yes.
Rishi Sharma. Nice to see you, Rishi, hitting the super chat tip jar as well tonight. Thank you. Got some heavier rain also in southern Indiana, western Kentucky, southeastern Illinois. You see a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings are popping up in that other severe thunderstorm watch area into Mississippi and Arkansas. So they're starting to bubble up. And we also have rain and even a couple of severe thunderstorms in northwestern Kansas for the time being. And we've got rain up in the northern plains that extends up into Minnesota and into northwestern Wisconsin. So it's that's one of the areas that's got the flood watches up. And right now in the west, it is quiet. The Storm Prediction Center tonight, a slight risk up and down the Florida coast and on the Florida Panhandle, marginal surrounding that. Slight risk in northwestern Alabama to eastern Arkansas, marginal risk in Nebraska, northeast Colorado, and southeastern Wyoming. Maybe they should have moved that down a little bit. Wait, where were those storms, did I say? Hold on, did I say Kansas? Yeah, the boxes are in Kansas. So maybe they should have should have had that marginal risk a little further south.
What happened?
No, nothing. I'm here. And here is some wide view. So you can see the 2 blue severe thunderstorm watches that are up at the moment. We have the latest one for Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Tennessee was issued not too long ago. And that's valid until 4Z. So 4Z is midnight, but the Eastern time. So that's 11 Central. Well, yeah, it's Central time. So 11 Central time. And what do we got for the next day? Okay, we've got an enhanced risk somewhere tomorrow. Okay, here we go. Enhanced risk in north central Texas. Big area of slight risk covering much of Texas and southern Oklahoma. Marginal risk. This is for Friday into Saturday. Marginal risk, West Virginia, down into Virginia and North Carolina, and then all the way down through much of the state of Florida except the Southwest. And looky here, Joe, they pushed up the general thunderstorm line to eastern Long Island and to just about to Route 84. So they nudged it up a little bit here for Friday into Saturday.
Yeah, that's the change. That's an update indeed. I was a little, looked at that earlier today, and we were still outside of the general thunderstorm area. And I said, well, I guess they think that the onshore flow will overwhelm any convection activity. But there it is. The update shows that they've decided to move that further north, and yeah, it's a CYA forecast. I'm not going to say what CYA is, but you could figure it out.
Louis Arizio and David Carter both hitting super chat tonight. Thank you for hitting the tip jar. And David says the best weather show going. Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. So there's your risk for tomorrow into Saturday. Now, Saturday into Sunday, we have marginal risk from southeastern Louisiana, southern Mississippi and Alabama, the Florida Panhandle, southwest Georgia. This is, again, Saturday into Sunday. And obviously, with the marine flow on Saturday, you're not going to get a thunderstorm with that. And on day 4 through 8, so day 4 is Sunday, predictability too low. So I'll be curious to see what they do with this when that Sunday system gets underway. And then starting from day 5 right through day 8, potential too low across the country for any severe weather. So it's going to get quiet. And I was just looking at things, Joe, with respect to the weather next week. The block is so strong that it's just going to be cool throughout much of the eastern half of the United States, maybe even a little bit beyond the eastern half. And I also think it could be a bit on the breezy side for the first few days of next week with this system in eastern Canada and the upper low and the surface low and all the rest of it. Going to be a bit on the breezy side, too.
Well, as I said near the beginning of the show, I think on Saturday, especially coastal areas are going to be looking at winds gusting to over 30 miles an hour. I'm not quite sure about Sunday yet. I think as far as Sunday is concerned, we might be looking at another breezy day. But I think of the 2 days, I think that the windier or the breezier day will be Saturday. And again, that plus temperatures near 50 and clouds and on and off rain, it's just going to be, as Mr. Cioffi would say, a gloom and doom day on Saturday. Sunday, actually, Joe, we may be able to hold off on any significant precipitation until the afternoon or even toward evening. And maybe, just maybe, we might even be able to get a few pokes or holes in the clouds to allow for a little bit of sunshine. I think of the 2 weekend days, Sunday definitely the milder, whereas we may be confined close to 50 on Saturday, probably closer to 60 on Sunday. But even if we get to 60 or 62, again, the normal high, at least in the lower Hudson Valley, is around 66. So even Sunday will be a below normal day, although not quite as below normal as what we'll probably see on Saturday.
Miss Fowlerite corrects my pronunciation. Thank you. I always try to pronounce these things, and it always helps. If I get it wrong, I'm sorry. But I really, I always try to make an effort to get the correct pronunciation. It's Playa Linda, playa meaning beach. Okay, So now that beautiful beach.
Right.
Anthony Spiraccio, no more rain tonight, he says, and he hit the tip jar to ensure that it won't rain. I don't know if that'll work, but we'll give it a try. Thank you for doing that, Anthony. Also, Frank Scalera hitting super chat tonight, and Raymond O'Hara hitting super chat tonight. Thank you all very much for doing that. It is greatly appreciated. All right, the latest from WPC with respect to rainfall is on the order of still very bullish with rainfalls up and down the eastern seaboard. Looks like just about everybody gets 1.5 inches. The darker purple is actually 1.75 inches, and that covers much of eastern PA to southern New England down into Virginia. You've got a narrow strip of 2.5 inches from southeast PA down through central Virginia into just touching western North Carolina, also nudging the Carolina coastline, some of the bigger amounts, southern Georgia, the Florida Panhandle, et cetera, et cetera. Pretty much everybody east of the Mississippi is going to wind up at least with 0.5 inch of rain over the next 7 days. And a lot of this, if not all of it, is front end loaded. And you can see what's going on in the west, where we've got 1/2 to 3/4 inch of liquid precip up and down the Sierra Nevadas and into southern Oregon. So that kind of makes sense with the amazing snows that they have melting away there. 3/4 inch of rain is certainly going to cause a problem in some places, which is why they've got the flash flood watch up. And actually, the digital forecast from the Weather Service, I just pulled this up before. This is just through Sunday evening. So we still got Sunday night to work through, but you can see the 1 inch plus amounts, just about an inch or so in southeastern New England. Then you start to get into the 1.5 inch amounts from Long Island, 2 inch amounts in New Jersey, south central PA. And then you've got these 3 inch plus amounts around Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and points further south. So again, this is only through Sunday evening. So while the areas to the south might pick up a little bit more, it's likely that the areas to the north, as you see up here, the amounts tail off through Sunday evening, but you'll make it up Sunday night into Monday morning with respect to New England and upstate New York. So let's take a look at what the models seem to be getting more and more consistent here. The European has finally backed away from the idea of taking a low offshore up the coast, but just offshore, and has sort of joined the party with the others. So here's your first low, and you see the arc on the radar. The rain actually is fairly, I can tell you that the rain was steady and heavy here, and it really gets heavy tomorrow morning across Virginia back into western PA. Then it starts to tail off ever so slightly during the afternoon and evening as it moves further to the north, with a low there in southwestern Ohio. And then it lifts further north tomorrow evening. A new low, a second low. It doesn't have an L there, but that's not going to stop me. I'm going to put an L there. There's a little closed isobar off the North Carolina, Virginia coast. And then, of course, you've got the high that's sitting up in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. So Mr. Onshore Flow will be working pretty hard here. The gradient's not tight, but there is a bit of a gradient later tomorrow night into Saturday morning. And you can see how the rain just sort of lingers around. And the thing is, then now you got the next one. And you can follow that along. There's a low moving through the Gulf states. And here we are on Sunday. Yeah, the GFS still has some rain on its radar presentation for Saturday evening. And even into Saturday night, it still has rain in east of the Hudson and going into Massachusetts and Connecticut. And then, of course, you start to get the second round of moisture. Now, I wonder, I love when the model splits the difference. It's got one batch of heavy rain and thunderstorms that moves well out to the east. It's got another batch of heavy rain in central and western Pennsylvania and western New York. It's sort of a little hole in the middle. So we'll see how that works out. But this is at 2 a.m. Monday. And then it's done. And then you've got a lot of isobars. This thing's circulation's covers much of the eastern part of the United States. And I guess, Joe, that's why CPC was talking about, cold weather coming as we move into the first week of May.
And that's presumably going to persist below normal for probabilities of below normal here in this part of the country. Presumably right on through the next couple of weeks. They still haven't backed off on that. But when you look at the upper low and how slowly it's going to be moving through the Great Lakes into the Northeast during the early part, the first days of May, you can understand why the idea is, okay, well, it looks like it's going to be with us for a while. And as I said yesterday, as you watch, this will probably be a situation where we'll stay unseasonably cool right on into June. And then all of a sudden, with the click of a switch, seemingly, we'll get into that. I forgot who it is who wants the hot, humid, or much, warmer weather here. But I honestly don't think you're going to get that until probably sometime later in June or July. By the way, Lindy on the chat board asking about the situation in terms of the drought. And if you give me any sharing privileges, I'll show you, since they come out on Thursday. They always update on Thursday. I'll show you the very latest drought monitor map for the Northeast.
Sure. Just give me a second here.
And when I saw it, I was kind of surprised because, I honestly didn't think that we were, in any kind of a, not necessarily a drought situation, but a dry situation. But presumably, according to the Climate Prediction Center, we are, believe it or not.
I think that those hot weather days that we had in April with the very, very low dew points, I think went a long way to making conditions abnormally dry. Also, the fact that it's been a while since we've had a widespread rainfall. We've had days with thunderstorms and that sort of thing, but to have a widespread soaking rain over the course of a couple of days has not happened in quite a while.
Well, here we go. We have most of the Northeast. Most of the Northeast, I would have to say, at least 75 to 80% drought-free, no problems weather-wise. However, in the areas of yellow, which encompasses the tri-state area, we do have abnormally dry conditions for Orange County, for Putnam County, for Westchester County, and we also have the first stage of drought, D1 or moderate drought, and that includes southwestern Connecticut, also northeastern sections of New Jersey, Rockland County in the Hudson Valley, and also down into southeastern sections of Pennsylvania and the eastern half of Maryland. Again, moderate drought. And that took me by surprise, but we'll probably see with the wet weather coming tomorrow night and Saturday, and another round coming later Sunday into Monday, that is probably going to alleviate, or at least I would think it's going to alleviate those areas that have moderate drought, maybe knock it back to abnormally dry. And for those that are abnormally dry, maybe no drought at all by this time next week, or no dry weather concerns by this time next week. But that's how it looks here in the Northeast. And just to show you quickly what it looks like on a nationwide scale, the main area of drought is right smack in the nation's midsection, for places in Nebraska, also in Kansas, and also in portions of Oklahoma, and spotty areas in Texas. They have significant drought conditions. Also, that's occurring in portions of the Florida Peninsula, and also in the middle of Oregon. They have some significant drought. But
Much
really,
much of California is out of it now.
Absolutely. And Arizona, too. Remember last year?
Mm-hmm.
These are places with severe drought. And as they went into the
or extreme
middle and latter
drought
part of the spring and extreme drought, and now it's a whole different story. It's amazing what, all right, I'll use the term atmospheric river. There were about 9 or 10 of them over the winter and early spring. It's amazing what the river bringing in all that moisture can do to diminish a drought. But again, in the nation's midsection, we'll have to work on this.
All right. Well, I have the upper air map up, so I'll switch it to that, and we can take a look at this overall pattern. The blocking pattern is going to hold through next week, and I guess depending on what run you use, it starts to break down a bit after that. But you see here, this is this morning, right in here. There you go. That is a cutoff high pressure area sitting in northern Labrador, and that has allowed for a northern jet to move down out of Canada, and at the same time you've got this sort of active southern part of the jet stream, that upper low that you see in Oklahoma. That's that first system that is in play. You've got this low that is sitting out in the Atlantic between Newfoundland and the Azores. So everything is just kind of holding in place, at least for now. Think about the springtime with these blocking patterns. They can hold sometimes for a long period of time, but that upper high is going to break down, and that allows this next energy up in northern Canada. You can see a little shortwave that breaks away from a trough in Alaska that comes down toward Lake Winnipeg and phases. The first up system, of course, for Friday night and Saturday, so that lifts up, but there's a second one, and then that tries to phase with it, although they do show them saying sort of separate. The upper feature in the north dominates, picks up that southern feature, absorbs it, and lifts it up the eastern seaboard on Sunday and Sunday night, and then you have to wait for that upper low to get out of the way because it just sits there in eastern Canada and spins. Eventually, it pivots with the system that's out in the Atlantic between Newfoundland and the Azores. As that moves northward, this upper low moves southward and actually drops a cutoff low, Joe, off the New Jersey coast by the end of next week. And I think that explains why the model has the last few runs of the models are trying to show some sort of coastal low offshore with that. But until that upper low and all these, these cold features get out of the way, it's going to be awful hard for things to warm up. So we're at, this is May 6th here, 7th, 8th, and 9th. There's still troughing left in the eastern part of the United States. And then finally, it breaks away, and it looks like the blocking breaks down to an extent, and we get into a little bit more of a normalized pattern, maybe it's a warmer pattern after, say, the 10th or the 11th. So that'll be something to think about. We just have to get through next week if the models are correct. As long as there's no complications, that may put an end to this blocky pattern, and then we'll go to something else that at least might allow things to warm up a little bit.
Very, very true. Very true. Well, it's just, what can we do, Joe? All we can do is just sit here and watch and observe, and hope that things get a little bit better. I mean, I know we here in the Northeast, as we just saw, we could use a bit of that moisture, but there's nothing more that we could do beyond that. I mean, hopefully we'll get to a spring-like pattern for the summer.
Yeah. Well, here's your first low, which now, of course, if you remember back not that many days ago, but where the GFS was trying to take this straight east out to Bermuda, so naturally the low winds up in Detroit. Makes total sense to me. That's for Friday night and Saturday. And then as that northern energy gets going, southern energy gets involved, we start to get more areas of rain coming up for Sunday into Sunday night. Low there in central Pennsylvania. Might be a little bit further east than that when it's all said and done. So that'll help determine whether we get into heavy rain. And you see the gradient behind it on Sunday night across the lower Great Lakes and down the Ohio Valley and even into the southeast. There's a nice northwest flow. And then up it goes, but the low doesn't go away. Yes, that is snow in the upper peninsula of Michigan and in the upper area of the lower peninsula of Michigan. And as that system sort of pivots around and drops southeastward, this is why the GFS does what it does with some kind of ocean low out there at the end of next week. One thing, though, Monday and Tuesday, there's probably going to be a lot of instability clouds and maybe some instability showers.
I think you're absolutely right. In fact, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week, I said, those days could start off, with plenty of sunshine, and then self-destruct sunshine, clouds coming in, and by the end of the day, widely scattered showers. Not just for a day or two. I think it could go through, 3 straight days, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, with that type of pattern because of all that instability.
And, if the upper low does what the model's saying, as it pivots southeastward, it probably is going to mean for some more weather to deal with, perhaps even for Thursday and Friday, if you want to believe it. I even see a little bit of blue there in West Virginia. There's a tiny strip of blue with the 534 thickness. You see it there? That's on Wednesday night. Southwest PA into northern West Virginia. Well, write it down, folks. And there it goes. You see how that low, if that's real, we'll see if it is. And then once that gets out of the way, then things start to normalize a little bit. And then it actually looks okay, and maybe even starts to get starts to warm up a bit. As I said, after maybe around the 9th or the 10th, it starts to warm up, and things get a little bit back to normal anyway. Then no big storms or even small storms, just weak systems running around in the latter part of the forecast period. But that's so far down the road.
I have 51 for the low Hudson Valley. I've got a high of 51 Saturday, 62 Sunday. Again, remember, 66 is the norm, and we'll hit that. At least in my opinion, we will get to there on Monday, and you figure, okay, here we go. We start the long climb back upward again. No, because after Monday, because of that area of instability, because of that threat of clouds and afternoon showers popping up for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Tuesday, 62, and then Wednesday and Thursday, I have temperatures back in the upper 50s. So it does not look like we're going to be seeing any seasonal or any mild or warm weather in the coming days ahead. What happened to those temperatures in the 90s we were dealing with just a couple of weeks ago?
Well, we didn't see, we got to just over 90, but places in southeastern New England got to mid 90s, and it wouldn't be a total shocker if those numbers wind up being the highest temperatures for the whole year. But we won't know that till we get into late August or early September.
And Chuck Cardillo, I can empathize. He said, I mowed the lawn today and gotten eaten alive by the mayflies. Some people call them the mayflies. Around here in Putnam Valley, we call them the shad flies, or sometimes you just call, another word is midge, which, by the way, was Barbie's first girlfriend, Midge. I mean, these mayflies, these midges, these shad flies, whatever you want to call them, they are worse than mosquitoes. They come out, and yes, they do eat you alive, especially in the latter part of the day, and in the early part of the day they're out. Around midday, I guess they go away for a short while for lunch, but or have lunch eating something else. But it's horrible. And I asked Renata, in fact, I said, well, how long do you think this is going to last? She thinks that these things are going to be around till the middle or latter part of May. Ugh. I can't deal with this. I don't know if you have it down there.
No, we don't have
in Georgia.
No, our insects are slow. I actually don't have. Honestly, I really don't have a lot of it up here in the mountains, because I guess a lot has to do with the fact that the nights. We had two nights last week where we got down to near or just below freezing. So there haven't been that many insects. I mean, I've seen some a few bees and a few other things that are not shouldn't be described to a family audience. But no, it's not the the 2 summers I've been here, it hasn't really been that bad.
I think I may move down where you are.
Oh, please do. There's a housing there's a housing shortage here. I mean, there's very little. There's very few homes for sale. Very few.
They're all heading. They've been watching the Joe and Joe show. They said, "Boy, that Joe Cioffi, he doesn't get heat waves in the summer. He doesn't get much snow in the winter. It looks like a great place to be."
Yeah, no, it is. It actually is. All right, let's do a little Briller Jeopardy and wrap up this Thursday night show.
Okay, and I did get something from the chairman, Mr. Briller, and he says that on this new category of Briller Jeopardy, he's asking, what are the 3 largest cities of each state by population? So we'll start with Arizona, the 3 largest cities in Arizona.
So I will say Phoenix, Tucson, Tucson, Phoenix, Tucson.
The third one is tough.
I mean, I know Sedona is very popular, but I don't know if it's that popular.
It's popular, but it's not a big city.
I'm not gonna. I'm thinking it's not Flagstaff. So there's Prescott. There's Winslow.
Well, Matthew.
How?
Hugh. Whatever.
Mesa.
Well, Matthew got it. It's the third in terms of population. Number 3 in Arizona is Mesa. Yes.
No, I never would have gotten that.
So the next state to ponder, this is going to be more difficult, I think, for a lot of people. Arkansas. First one is easy, but then there's
Arkansas. Okay, so Little Rock.
Right.
Isn't there a Fort something, Arkansas? Why do I think there is? I can't think of the other side. There's Pine Bluff, Arkansas. All right, so we got Little Rock. Anybody on the chat board want to add to this? I'm not cheating, by the way. I could easily go on pull up a map of Arkansas, but I'm not.
Louis
Fort
Orizio,
Smith, that's what I couldn't think of. Fort Smith.
right? Louis Orizio got 2 of the 3.
Michael McGuire's is Fayetteville.
And there you go.
Very good.
And we got all 3.
Oh, we got smart folks on the chat board that know their geography.
That's right. And by the way, Little Rock, for those of you who are interested, Little Rock is in the path of the total eclipse of the sun next year in 2024. So make your hotel reservations now, I guess.
Okay.
So,
what's the next one?
and that's it.
That's it?
Joe and Joe, according to the chairman after that, Joe and Joe, Renata and all, Weather family, have a great weekend, and he will be back on Monday.
All right. So we will advise everybody to do the same. Have a great weekend. We'll be back Sunday morning. I will be on Central Time on Sunday. So I will be, the show will be at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 10 Central. Now the NBC Peacock should open up. All right.
You know, not too long ago, you know, somebody mentioned wild turkeys on the chat board, wondering where they are. We have wild turkeys up here where I am. Funniest thing I ever saw, and sometimes we get like 20 or 30 of them. They go in a line. But the funniest thing I ever saw with wild turkeys here was not this past spring or a couple of years ago, a few springs ago. Looked out the window, 2 turkeys, a female turkey who's walking nonchalant, you know, minding her own business, and behind the female turkey was the male turkey. And every so often, the male turkey would stop and open up his feathers.
Yes, the toms will do that.
And the female turkey didn't want to have anything to do with it, just kept walking. So he closes his feathers and quickly runs to go right up behind the female turkey. And then the whole thing gets started again. He opens up his feathers. She continues to move. It was funny. I said, well, I after doing that like 3 or 4 times, I opened the window and I yelled out to both turkeys. I said, give it up, Tom.
Right,
give it
exactly.
up. It ain't working.
Oh, good Lord. All right. The Joe and Joe Weather Show, as we know, is brought to you by, just give me a second here. Oh, where is it?
I don't know.
Oh, it's not.
But you have it?
I do have it, but it's behind you. Okay, I got to bring it up on the screen. There we go. The Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Tempest, by WeatherFlow, the revolutionary Tempest weather system. And you get it, and you can join the fastest growing observing network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. And if you use the coupon code Joe and Joe Weather Show, you get 10% off your purchase. They got other weather merchandise there too. And Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125 is the phone number. And the website is
OmniTrueValue.com. And also want to thank everybody who hit the tip jar tonight. David Fuller, Rishi Sharma, Raymond O'Hara, Anthony Spiraccio, Louis Orizio, Frank Scalera, and David Carter. Thank you, one and all.
Yes, thank you very much for hitting the tip jar. Most appreciated as always. So we'll see everybody on Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central. Good night, Joe.
Nighty-night.